Hi, I'm Jason, the Botanical Buzzard, showing off my garden today. I'm going to do a garden tour, small explanation of some of the plants we have. It's a bit hot here. We're shooting in Tampa, Zone 10B. Some of the inland areas do fall in I'm in 10A. Some of the inland areas fall in a 9B. And what we are looking at here is my buttercup squash. It is a mammoth of a plant. Get in here and get you a photo of some of the better looking fruits that he's got going on. There's a big beautiful one there, and there's another one next to it. Here's a smaller one. It is pollinated and it is growing. And amongst the squash, we've got some sweet potato coming up here. It's beginning to crawl. This squash is not going to last all summer long. By the time it gives up, I'm expecting the sweet potato to be filling in pretty good. Also saw, look at that guy there. That is a beautiful purple ube yam that's coming up. We also have a ton of volunteer tomatoes and marigolds. Once they're established in the yard, they just stick around. They come back every year. I believe this is going to be a Roma tomato, judging by some of the fruit sets that we have here. It's a volunteer. I have no idea how it got here. I'm just guessing Roma because Roma is one that I've tried to grow here before. And it's obviously not an Everglades tomato, which is one that we do grow here regularly. So I would expect to see that coming back on its own. Just as it has all throughout here. It completely overtook the corn patch. I had no idea all those tomato seeds were ready to come up. However, we're not complaining. As you can see, this buttercup squash is just a majestic plant. It's crawling out everywhere, and early in its life, which was only right about 2 months ago we planted this guy, all of the vines that came out, I turned them back in. As you can see, they're all curled back in on itself. It gave it a nice shape and allows it to keep itself shaded. We're going to walk on around here. This is a fig that's coming back from the recent frost that we had, a late frost here in Tampa. I guess a lot of the country got hit with a late frost this winter. Right behind me here, I have another cucurbita coming up. I'm not sure what it is because I've planted so many things that didn't come up, and then sometimes they do pop up later. This looks like another squash. Who knows what kind? I grow yellow bush squash as well as scallop squash, prolific crookneck, straight neck, so some of these things are bound to come back. Here we have another Dioscorea alata. This is, let me look at the leaf and see what we got here. Okay, this looks like one of the alien yams that I got from David the Good over at Good Gardens. He has these really odd looking extraterrestrial yam bulbils that are just fantastic, and I was really excited to get some of those. I've been growing yams for a couple of years and was tickled to get that variety. This is the last of the blue curled kale. I left it to see if it would go to seed. I can't believe it's almost May here in Tampa and it still hasn't bolted and hasn't died. It did very well through the cold, extremely cold hardy. Behind that we have another small squash that doesn't look like it's going to do too good. This is jicama, this and this and this, and I believe I've got one more jicama over here. They're gonna grow up and fill out this fence along with these yams that are growing. I've got another yam growing here. This one appears to be, not sure. I did get some yam bulbils from grower Jim. They were the Pentaphilia 5-leaf yam. Forget where I planted those. I planted so many and some didn't come up, and then some waited a long time, and then I believe some pieces came up from last year. So it threw me off a bit. I am not a marker. These are some scallion onions that got planted out of the grocery store. They laid in the refrigerator for a while, so I stuck them out in the ground just a couple of years ago, and occasionally when one falls over, that's the one I'll harvest. Take it in the house. Just a small addition to the garden. Continuing down the fence here, I have the Garden King. Behind this crate that I put up here, I zip tied it to the fence. It acts as some protection. I do that because a big squash grew up here last year and it just loved this pallet as a trellis. So I put it back again this year as a form of protection for whatever grows. Behind us here we have turmeric and ginger beginning to grow well, but if you can see the vine coming out of the ground here, very thick vine, and he's coming up, see daisy, up see daisy. This is Dioscorea alata, the white grater yam, and I'm trying to keep it on this side of the fence. He seems to want to crawl over there to the trailer park, but we're trying to convince him to stay on this side of the tracks. This thing is a second year it's been in the ground, and it is so happy and prolific that it's just shot out of the ground like this and hasn't even bothered putting out leaves yet. For some reason the yams really like this space along the fence. I have them planted in a couple of different areas of the yard. However, the ones that I harvested from here were huge, and they got within 10 pounds, near 10 pounds in just a few months. So I know this one, being a second year, is going to get very big in the ground. And that should give us some nice air potatoes off the vine. And before I go back in the yard, there's another yam doing very well. But before I go through the fence, we'll go ahead and finish going around the squash garden here. And let's continue around the direction we were going. This, of course, is a beautiful sunflower. It's about to do something. Got a good early jump. He's another volunteer that came back from seeds that were planted in this bed last year. It's nice to see him living here amongst the squash. He's going to grow up and tower above it all and be the king of the garden, no doubt. Here's another nice fruit set coming up. These buttercup squash are delicious. They're very tough and they're very big. You get a lot of food out of one of these. As you can see, there's a couple more. They are pumpkin sized. And this one just continued to grow. There's two plants here, and now they are working together. They've broken through the boundaries. They've come over here. They're crawling through everything, crawled right through the corn patch in two directions. They would happily strangle everything if I let them. And because the tomatoes are volunteer, I got some love for them, you know. But I'm not gonna let them kill my squash or get in the way of the squash. I got some fruit set here on the Everglades. I'm surprised he hasn't started giving me some ripe fruit yet. Here we have another alien yam, as I have come to call them, from Good Gardens. This is the rare South American species that he was able to get his hands on, thankfully. I saw some videos he'd posted a while back where he was trying to get a hold of somebody he saw had some. I saw the same video and was glad that he was able to get it. Did you see what I just caught? One of these grasshoppers. They just love eating my corn. Well, I have a rule about things that eat my plants. The plant that you are eating is the one that you're going to go back down into the ground and feed. So unfortunately, this little guy's got to get squished and he's got to get shoved down into the soil here. I did not mean to make an R-rated video. However, some garden pests just have to be laid to rest. Black sweet corn and some purple sweet corn. Don't know if the tomatoes are going to let any of the pollination take place. They strangled out many of the seedlings when I was out of town working, and this is what I ended up with, was a little bit more tomato than corn. However, sometimes you just got to put things out there and let them fight it out and see who's going to win. That's how I feel about these annuals anyway. The perennials are going to be established and take good care, get good care taken of them. We're going to keep on moving here. This is a potato row. These are a relatively local heirloom variety from a farmer. They were organic, always been organic, came from an organic seed, have never known a chemical in any of their genetic lineage. Mid-season red potatoes that I picked up somewhere near Fort White, Florida. This is about the last row that I have left. I've harvested a lot of them early. They just did fantastic. Let me show you the secret to growing these things. When they get going, you hill them up a bit, but I don't really hill them up with that much soil. I like to hill them up with mulch. These are oak leaves collected from the neighborhood. And as you can see, they're so thick that I don't have to dig down very far to expose permanently moist coverage. The potatoes just love this during their growth. Hilling them up higher isn't going to cause another set of potatoes to grow. That is a myth. My cheap trellis for my very beautiful purple ube yam. They suffered last year due to garden pest number one, which was a dog digging up everything in the backyard. So I was unable to actually collect enough to eat. I chopped up what roots I had and they're scattered throughout the yard in various places. We had to take down a corn plant, so I used it to make a small makeshift trellis. Hi, Mr. Lizard. On patrol, eating some pests. I appreciate it. I also see a little dragonfly right there. On patrol in the garden. Thank you, sir, for your service. So I just made a little tripod here. Went and yanked some of the vines off of the tree in the backyard, dropped them down, tied them to that stick, and voila, we've got a little trellis that will at least take care of this guy for a little while until I can build him something better. So while we're here, down at the ground, I have 1, 2 huge melon pits that I dug, filled with water, dug a big hole, filled them with water again, came back, dumped a bunch of bones, kitchen scraps, this, that, and the other, some greens, some browns, some topsoil, built up the hole so that I'll never have to worry about what's growing out of that. Because what I'm growing now is David the Good's tropical pumpkin. Here, and about 2 feet over, I'm going to grow the Seminole pumpkin. I expect it to end up looking like the buttercup summer squash. 2 of them working together in tandem. And as these grow up and get big, the potatoes will be out of the way. This mulch pile, or compost pile rather, will be their new source of food. I'll move the pallets out of the way. And that's exactly how I've built this entire garden. Florida gardening is tough. It takes a little nuance. The sand absolutely digests any kind of biological material to the point where compost is tough to keep around. So what I found was I built a compost pile like this one. And in one season, I went to flip it, and when I went to turn it, I saw beautiful soil underneath. And I thought, well, that is a beautiful garden bed. Why don't I plant right into that? So I did. That was right here. That was the first square. And then I planted in that, and that was the first garden bed. And I just moved the compost pile next to it. And then I did it again. So what we have is 1, 2, 3 compost piles. I started a fourth one here. It was supposed to be my compost pile for this season, but everything moved on into it, so they took it over early. That's why I moved this guy back, and we actually have 3 compost piles that have just grown together here now. I throw everything in the compost pile. I border it with these logs and stuff that'll hold moisture, hugelkultur type. As you can see underneath this extremely happy tomato, it's just thatch and more thatch. And as I stick my finger down in there, it's very moist. And I build these thick layers of thatch and just let them stay built up the same way Mother Nature would do in the forest. I come out here, I continue to throw biological material on it that I collect through the neighborhood. As you can see here, it's just built up so thick. And the soil actually has structure. It hasn't been walked on in a long time. It has stayed watered. It doesn't compact. And I can't believe I actually have garden soil in Tampa, Florida. Enough about that. Let me turn around here and brag about Mr. The Good and his land racing ability to create hardy seed stock. This is his son Ezekiel's land raced watermelon. I watched the way he mixed all these genetics together and then put them on death marches and only kept the best of the best of the best, and ended up with just a wonderful, vigorous plant. As you can see, it's overgrown its bounds from this original bed. It's growing in front of and behind the air conditioner, crawling over into this bed, which was recently harvested of all the turnips, mizuna, a couple other greens that I had. Tatsoi was on the end. I kept a couple of tatsoi there to let them go to seed. The bees like them. Who can argue with a handsome little bumblebee like that? Of course, the marigolds pop up everywhere. So I'm going to allow these vines to come in. A couple coming in the back there. And then I'll just begin to loop them on themselves and let them fill in this whole area, because this is nice and amended soil, very fertile. And it holds moisture very well. The air conditioner drips right there. And because of that fact, I've planted 1, 2, 3, you can't see them, they're not up yet, American groundnut, also known as hopnus, Apios americana. We're looking for staple crops. We're looking for survival crops. We're looking for things that are going to live and provide real food. I'm not going to disturb what's going on here to show you the melon, but maybe I just will. Let me get a stick. We'll pull back a little leaf here and show you the beautiful melon growing on the vine. Yes, sir. Sorry to disturb you, sir. All right. So prolific as it is, it's growing around the corner. 2 coming there, 1 coming over there. It's already halfway down the wall. This is an old potato bed that I just took all the potatoes out of a few days ago. And the wood is in there to keep the dadgum dog from digging. The garden pest number 1 is a 20-pound blue heeler hound mix. Cute as can be. And I'm going to let these vines move into this area, and this is also going to become part of the watermelon patch. I imagine from the videos that I've seen on David the Good's channel that these things are going to do very well. There's obviously another plant in here. I think these leaves look like the Seminole pumpkin. Okay, before we go to the backyard, I do got a little bit of stuff left in the front yard to show. We had a pine tree fall down in a hurricane a couple of years ago. It left this high mound that dries out because it sits higher than the rest of the surrounding sand. Because of that, this is where I throw grass and stuff that I want to die. I don't throw it in the compost for fear that it may reroot, especially when it comes to this rhizomal type grass. These aggressive rhizomes like this that crawl right across the ground. All they have to do is touch a little bit of soil or moisture and they're going to keep going. So I throw them out here to die first really well, and then I'll put them back over as mulch somewhere. And the front looks quite unassuming, but I like to grow things in the ground. This is the garlic that's still doing well. And emerging from the ground is a second-year yam. This is a white yam. Here's one that I planted from bulbil. Don't look like it's doing too well. I don't know if he should fight this one, so I'll probably move him. Here's another one that sprung up on his own. I didn't even realize was over here. The vine seems pretty thick. It may be a second year. Here's another one growing up over here. So when I saw this tree stump, we took the tree down years ago. I thought that the bottom would be a great place to grow a yam. I thought the biological material in the tree would be a great host. Things do seem to grow well here, so I began to amend this area and I planted yams around it. And in just a month or two, this whole thing is going to be covered with the yam vines. I'm going to have to trellis them all the way over to this tree because the second year they are going to be extremely vigorous. We've got two planted here. Here's one big guy crawling up to the tree. Nice thick asparagus looking vine coming out of the ground. Here's number two. Beautiful specimens of the Dioscorea. There's another one coming up. Well, there's no doubt that this will be a beautiful vine-covered tree in no time. I keep the aloes around where I can. They seem to make good companions in the garden along with the marigolds. This is also a couple of pieces of ginger, turmeric. This is the last of the, what was this? Japanese collard greens. And as you can see, I actually have one Mizuna leaf left in here that didn't get harvested. This is an extremely cold hardy, extremely nutritious plant. It appears that we have some jicama coming up as well. Fantastic, guys. I do love the jicama out of the garden. I don't know what they do commercially, but I've never had one out of the store that I enjoyed eating. Never. It doesn't even taste like the same vegetable. I have no idea what they're selling in the store. So I'm going to move over here to what has ended up becoming the marigold bed. And if you don't believe me, just ask them, because they have taken over with authority. Ran out most of the local competition, which blows my mind because this was crawling with what was it? The tomatoes, the Everglades tomatoes last year, and I thought for sure those were going to self-seed and come back. Apparently, when something gets the right environment, it'll come back. A couple extra potatoes that I had, I went ahead and threw them in a pot to see how they'd work. I've been warned the black pots get too hot. We'll see how this works out. I have a row of jicama planted here. However, I don't see any coming up yet. Here's one. I just lied. Here's a happy little guy. Nitrogen fixing plant. Actually puts nutrients back into the ground. Call it a fertilizer plant. A few things growing here on the side of the driveway. And as you can see, the marigolds, the French marigolds, just take over. They're quite happy. They've already went to seed and flowered again, and it isn't even May yet. Well, guess we can take a trip right through the garage here. And it'll bring us right out at the backyard garden. I'll start down here at the shady end. I guess it's no secret that I love yams. I've been studying permaculture and survival gardening since COVID, and this is the path that it's led me on. I've absolutely fallen in love with the characteristics of this plant. Next to it here we have American Beautyberry that I've harvested from a local dog park, actually. Though I've heard they won't go good in the shade, I put a fantastically deep melon pit in this giant mulch pile that I have around the tree here. And we're going to see how this Seminole pumpkin does. If he wants to crawl around and find some light, there's plenty of it around here. You'll just have to put a little work into it, that's all. Some mulch I'm working on. This is another alien yam, is what these are, from Good Gardens. This was the largest bulbil that I had, and it is only about 5 weeks in the ground, and it's already got leaves like that. It shot out of the ground aggressively, split into two, so I'm letting it climb up the vines of this tree, and I'm going to let it completely inhabit this tree. It's going to be nice. As we move to the left side of the shed here, we've got a stick plant. I was waiting for my second year yam to come up right here. It did not sprout, so I dug it up, and guess what? It was still good. We have a volunteer tomato plant here, and unfortunately I can't tell what type it is. The sets don't look like any other tomato that I've planted in the yard. They don't look like the Roma or the Everglades tomato. Why can I not remember that one today? However, I have tried a couple of different varieties. The Black Seaman tomato is one that I've tried in the yard. So it could be any one of them varieties that has decided to come back and sprout. It's interesting because it's varieties that I had no luck with the first time. I guess they just weren't happy with the timing. So we have a row of potatoes here, the same kind of potatoes. And as you can see, they're not quite as happy as the row out there. That's for a couple of reasons. The main reason is garden pest number one plays ball out here, and she doesn't mind plowing through a potato plant to catch her little ball. So some of them have been beaten on early in their life, and they just never recovered from the stress fully. I healed them back up again and straightened them up. The ones that she destroyed too bad, like this one, we're just going to go through and harvest those. And so we weren't mad about her early harvesting techniques. We just started bringing them into the house, and that was a good way to stretch out the potato harvest. The row that's out there in the garden is going to sit there as long as possible until we actually need it. It appears we have another beautiful purple yam coming out, the Ube Dioscorea alata, not to be confused with purple sweet potato. Coming along here, I have another squash plant, and I thought that we had put a patty pan in or something smaller, but it appears that these things are getting big. I did not mean or intend to put such a large variety of squash over here. However, we will get what we can out of it. It does look relatively happy, and believe it or not, even a squash that young can be harvested and eaten. And I know this because we suffered some freeze from the last late frost. I had already had some squash growing out in the other part, and they died. So I went and harvested the 2 little ones that we had that had a chance to get at least that big before they died from the frost, and they were edible. Here I have, so that leaf, as you can see, it's very different from the other yam leaves. And the vine grows thin. And I did not know this guy was here. He must have come back from last year. This is Dioscorea polystachya, also known as the Chinese yam. And in early America, it was well known as the cinnamon vine. This is the only yam that I have in the yard that is cold hardy, up to zone 5, so I've heard. And I have some smaller yams here. I'm not sure if this is the 5-leaf yam, Dioscorea pentaphylia, or if it's another alien yam. But it looks like these potatoes are going to be the next to be harvested. I've shown you just about everything there is in the garden. So, without going into a long explanation about the botanicals and all these plants, I'm just going to show you some greens that I'm drying out because we just had so many. I couldn't eat them all, gave the dogs some. I found some seeds. Now you can't see through the dirt, but in that dirt are 6 seeds that I found when I took the dog for a walk that had come from a giant lemon tree. The tree was so big that it just towered up so high, and the only fruits left on it were the ones way up at the top. However, I was lucky enough to find some laying on the ground. So I harvested one, and it only had 6 seeds in it. Very big, healthy seeds, and I want this land-raced lemon tree that is survived in these harsh conditions in this area for quite some time, despite the droughts, despite the disease that has come through Florida and devastated the citrus industry. I want seeds from those survivors, and I really hope that those seeds come up and I'm able to somehow put them back out into the wild again. So I want to thank you for joining me, and you do have a great day. Please grow something. It is so good for the heart and soul to connect with your food like this. And who knows if the grocery stores are going to be carrying food much longer. I'm just kidding. They're always going to have food. But the thing is, it's not as good as this food. These vegetables kick the tar out of vegetables on those shelves. Those vegetables at the store taste like flavored water or something. I don't know. But you've never had a carrot until you've had a purple nebula carrot out of the garden. Anyway, I ramble. Take care and be blessed.